All right, my people, let's do some philosophy. Today we're going to do a little philosophical analysis of a YouTube short that comes from Daily Dose of Wisdom, which is the channel of Brandon McGuire. I chose this short for a couple of reasons. One, it claims to include a Christian versus atheist incredible debate. That title jumps out at me because usually on philosophical and logical grounds, these debates are incredibly bad. Because in philosophy, we care about logic and evidence. We care about whether or not the arguments lead to the conclusions and get us closer to the truth, not whether or not they convince people. We're going to be generous and hope that this argument is different. The second thing that jumped out, it says in the description, there's a mic drop. According to me, a mic drop means someone said something so spectacular, so profound, so good, drop the microphone because no one else needs it because there's nothing else to be said. Now, on philosophical and logical grounds, that'll mean that their argument was valid and sound, that I can't come up with a counter-argument demonstrating that what they said is wrong. I am betting dollars to donuts that I will be able to show that whatever this mic drop moment is, leaves plenty of questions unanswered. That's why I wanted to do it. Let's jump in.
It's rare that you get a mic drop moment that is this conclusive. This was an atheist and a Christian debating the difference between faith and confidence. Check this out.
Okay, so just in Brandon's introduction, I've got a couple of things that already have me a little bit testy. One, since he said that this is going to be a conclusive mic drop, I am now doubling down. I'm not going to just bet dollars to donuts. I will eat my shirt if I can't show that whatever there is as a mic drop isn't a mic drop philosophically or logically. Second, that this is going to be over faith versus confidence. I have a pretty good idea where this is going to go. So let's lay out our definitions first. Here's what I think people mean. When someone's saying I have confidence, it's the degree of certainty based on the evidence so they can say, here's how likely I am to be right. But they will never ever say they're certain because science doesn't give us that. Looking at evidence doesn't give us that. For example, I'll use a famous example from Hume. I can tell you that it's really, 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 really likely that the sun will come up tomorrow, but I can't say I'm certain about it. I know it, I believe it, I act on it, but if really pushed, I can't be like, yeah, I'm certain about it, because a gazillion things could possibly happen between now and tomorrow. An example that we're all familiar with, weather. The weather forecast says there's a 90% chance of rain. Right? It's almost never going to say there's a 100% chance of rain unless it's actually raining. Because physical evidence and the scientific method doesn't give us absolute certainty, it gives us probability. Folks who are following the evidence, empirical evidence, measure their confidence relative to the probability that their explanation works, how accurate it'll be. That's why scientists use statistics, and there is in fact a confidence interval. So if I were predicting there's a 90% chance of rain, the confidence interval will then tell me, oh, based on the evidence you have and the sample that you're using and all of the data that you input, your prediction of a 90% chance of rain is 97% accurate. So that's what we mean by confidence. Confidence is the confidence interval. To what degree is it likely that my probabilistic inductive explanation based upon evidence is true? And our confidence goes up and down based on the evidence and the probability. If there's a 99.9% chance of rain, you're more likely to take your coat with you or your umbrella. If it's a 20% chance of rain, you might be like, yeah, I'm going to wing it. Confidence measures the strength of conviction that something is true. In scientific terms, it will be based on probability or reliability, but it accepts and concedes we're never certain. Faith, really conventionally, will be any belief wherein my strength of conviction goes beyond what the evidence tells me, goes beyond what is probable. If I said to you, hey, I'm going to roll this one die 20 times, you should be confident that at least one of those rolls will be a 6. That would be confidence. If you said, I'm going to bet you that 16 of 20 will be 6s, then that would be faith. The probability of it being 6, 17 times out of 20, is really low. So you would have a belief that you had a conviction in that was strong enough to act on without any evidence to support it. So that would be faith. So faith is belief that goes beyond or outstrips probability. Confidence is the degree of certainty that one has based on probability. This will have been a very long-winded thing that I end up editing out if none of the discussion has anything to do with what I just said.
There is a confidence level that he completely ignores. He's going to say, do you know that anything is true? And I'm going to say, well, technically, no. Confidence I believe it's true because I have confidence that it's true. I have confidence.
So this is one of the areas that leads to these huge problems. This dude playing the role of the atheist, or the actual atheist, is saying he doesn't know anything. But that's a really weird position to hold. It's not that he doesn't know anything. It's that he knows things, but his criteria for having adequate justifications for his beliefs isn't certainty. It's probability. So knowledge, in general in the Western tradition, all the way back to Plato, every theory of knowledge more or less starts with 3 parts. To know something is to have a justified true belief. A belief, we all know what it is. It's an idea that you hold to be true. Something like that. True, we can get by on a pretty simplified definition for now because 99% of people will agree with it. We'll say that truth is a value of a claim such that the claim maps onto the world. So when we're talking about external world stuff, the physical world, the universe, things like that, statement will be true if it reflects what's the state of affairs in the world. So, for example, the statement, there is a cup on the desk, is true if and only if there actually is a cup on the desk. Now, justification is where it gets really tricky. Justification amounts to whatever evidence or reasons serve to give a person the right to believe something. I'll borrow that concept. Justification are the reasons or evidence that demand, that you should believe something. That if you're rational, you should believe something if you're presented with this evidence or these reasons. And if you don't believe it and the evidence is good, then you're just being stubborn or you're unwilling to change your point of view or whatever else. So for example, my evidence that there's a mug on my table is I can see it, I can touch it, I can pick it up, I can drink from it. Now you can see it. We all have really great evidence that there's a mug. All of that would definitely be evidence to justify the belief that there is a mug on the table. That's enough to justify it. It doesn't give you certainty, but it's way more than 50-50. So the justification for a particular belief is the evidence or reasons that one has to believe that that belief is true. If you know something, you have to have the belief has to be true, and you have to be justified in believing it. Our atheist friend here is saying, really, that he knows things, but he never has 100% deductive certainty. If you make a deductive inference, it means something certain. All cats are mammals. Here's a cat. You know you have a mammal. 100% chance. If it is a cat, and it's the case that all cats are mammals, if you have a cat, you have a mammal. Period. Full stop. 100% certainty. Inductive, we're at a party, and there's 20 people here. 18 of the 20 people have brown hair. It's really likely the next person you meet will have brown hair. It's inductive. It's giving you a probabilistic explanation. So what our guy should have said is, I know things, but my criteria for knowing things is just probabilistic or reliable or an appeal to the best explanation. I never have certainty, and I'm okay with that because I can't prove a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff we need to believe and work with. You don't have certainty in any of your beliefs either. What confidence guy has is a belief based upon inductive inference from the evidence. And what he's going to say faith is belief that goes beyond a valid inductive inference from the evidence. And there's the difference. I like the way that worked out. All of this could be for naught, but I'll use it in other videos.
So you have faith, Bruce? Bruce, you have faith?
It's confidence,
Bruce,
it's not
you have
faith.
I
do not have faith.
So there you have it. Dude is arguing he does not have faith. Other guys saying he does have faith because they're talking past each other, because they're not realizing that ultimately one person's thinking of confidence in terms of a degree of certainty based on the evidence and the probability that my probabilistic explanation is true. And the other person's thinking of faith in terms of, hey, any inference that outstrips the evidence.
And my friends, there's a cliff
that these people are walking towards. That's why we're here.
We have a new dude.
You see, according to their worldview, our thoughts are nothing more than brain barf, chemical reactions.
This is just like a really straw man, weird argument. I think what he's saying when he's talking about brain barf and chemical reaction is there are positions that people hold, not a ton of them, in philosophy of mind and in neuroscience, where people will say minds and the mental is best explained not in the ways that we've historically described them, but in terms of neurophysiochemical processes, something like that. If you want to read the eliminativist materialist position, Paul Churchland used to hold that position. I haven't read this stuff in a little while, so he might have changed his view. But the other part, why call it brain barf? Like, why demean it? Whether or not it's just stuff that's happening because of physical events in a brain, our thoughts, our feelings, our desires, they matter to us. This dude with his, zip-up sweater guy, his family matters to him. His feelings are real. His emotions are real. His wants, needs, desires, goals, projects, things he loves, things he cares about. Those are all real things. No one's arguing those aren't real. Why are they less important if they're produced by brains? So I don't understand what argument he's making here, but also I haven't seen the whole debate. I'm just getting this snippet from Brandon.
And they want to hold us to a standard that they simply can't justify without God.
I don't know what that standard is. I'm guessing the standard will have something to do with morality, and that's a huge pet peeve of mine. There are lots and lots and lots of great arguments as to how and why objective morality can exist without God. Really good argument. So the idea that without God, morality goes away is just false. There are really good arguments. You might not agree with them, but there's really good, consistent, valid arguments.
Bruce doesn't have faith. He doesn't.
Bruce is really getting beat up on here.
Have faith. He has confidence. Confidence. Confide, from the Latin, with faith.
Okay. That took a turn I did not expect. But it's so bad. Brandon, and you're down there like smugly smirking and like, yeah. That is, that's just embarrassingly bad. I would be embarrassed. I hope that the sounds of like cheers and gasps were sound effects that Brandon added. And if they weren't, I've tried to collect myself. And let me see if I can explain this. It would be an equivocation fallacy. Equivocation is where you use one word in two different senses. What Zip Up Sweater Guy is saying is, Bruce, you claim to have confidence, but you claim to not have faith. However, etymologically, the word confidence has Latin roots, one of which means faith. Therefore, because people used the term confidence originally to mean with faith, you too have faith, therefore you contradicted yourself, therefore I gotcha. Now this etymological parlor trick is just silly. And it's just silly and it bums me out. And it's sad that someone would use it. And it's even sadder that someone kind of would repost it and think, whoa, what a mic drop moment. Because we can prove that it's irrational for you to accept this argument. If it's rational, it should work every time. We should say, hey, a good strategy for an argument is if you can break down the word a person is using etymologically and find that historically somewhere at some point in time, a root or portion of that word meant something that the person in question claims they don't believe or contradicts something they believe, then that demonstrates that they're wrong. That is what's happening here, 100%. Bruce comes to me and tells me his life is in shambles after these people were so shitty to him in this debate. And I say, really, Bruce, you have a lot of stools? And he says, no, I don't know what you're talking about. My life's messed up. I don't feel good about myself. It's screwed up my relationships. I lost my job. It's in shambles, meaning that it's kind of messy and falling apart. What are you talking about? Bruce, Don't you know that the word shambles, by way of Old English, was derived from Latin scamnum, which means a stool? Oh, let's go! Mic drop moment! Are you kidding me? And if I said that, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's insane. How the word was used 2,000 years ago is irrelevant. That's not what anybody meant about it now. I would hope you'd look at me and be like, that's really dumb. That's really silly. You shouldn't think that argument was any good. And if you did think it was good, you should probably be a little bit embarrassed and change your mind immediately. So, we learned a little bit about philosophical accounts of knowledge, coherent and consistent conceptions of faith versus confidence, equivocation fallacies, and a substitution instance, and proving how and why this argument about confide was absolutely embarrassingly bad. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know what I did wrong. Let me know what I did right. Civil, thoughtful, principled discussion, always encouraged. Shitty, one-liner insult discussion, discouraged. Thank you so much for the time. I learned something. I hope you did too. Bye.